Hello, welcome back to studyknits. This is podcast number 6. That's 7. Okay, so welcome back to studyknits. My name is Allie. If you're new here, I'm a medical student and I'm living in the United States currently. This is podcast number 6. Very exciting. It's been a minute since I filmed a podcast, I feel like. I don't think it's actually been a minute though, but it just feels like it's been a minute. I have 3.5-ish finished objects to show you, 2 whips to show you. The theme of this episode is failed finished objects, and you'll see more when we get into it. Lots of fails. Some that I've fixed, some that I will not fix. We'll talk about it later. If you've been following along, I'm a 4th year medical student. For my whole 4th year, I'm pretty much just spending like a month in a new place, like staying with friends and family. So this month I'm in Philadelphia. I'm renting a room from someone who went to my school. So it's been pretty fun being in Philly. I'm a big city girl. I love cities. So it's been nice to be here. I feel like every time I record a video, I'm in a new place. And like, that's true. That's just true. Also, yes, I did dye my hair. Thank you for noticing. I literally dyed it yesterday. I was going for like a reddish brown, and I feel like that's what I've achieved. I just used some toner basically to do it, or like a hair mask, color depositing hair mask. So it's not completely permanent color, but I don't know how long it'll take to go away. But just wanted something fun for fall because it's definitely fall time now. Also, in the beginning, I do usually like to talk about things that I've learned since I last recorded a podcast, since I am a relatively new knitter. My technical skills are good, but my working knowledge is ever improving. If you watch my last podcast, you know that I have kind of like a one-sided beef with my favorite things, knitwear, because in her patterns, she lists the US needle size to the millimeter needle size, and the conversion doesn't match. And I reached out and emailed them about it, and they responded by telling me that needle size is just a suggestion and to use whatever you need to get gauged, which was not the point of my email. And I got a couple of comments in my last video talking about how all of her patterns are that way, which this is the only pattern of hers that I've purchased, this camisole number 5. So I didn't know that. So apparently it's consistent in all of her patterns. And then also I learned apparently the edda knitting needles, which is like a brand of, like a nice brand of knitting needles, apparently it's their US to millimeter size conversion is somehow different. So maybe my favorite things is only using edda knitting needles, but I didn't dig super deep into it to double check. So for now, she gets the benefit of the doubt in the sense that maybe the edda knitting needles are just a little squirrely in terms of the conversion, but I don't know. She still pissed me off, no lie. In my last video, was saying how I was always saying melides top. Melides is a region of Portugal that this top is named after. And a lot of people online say melides. And then I Googled it, and I don't speak Portuguese. And so it's like melides or something like that. I don't know. Somebody commented on my podcast when I was talking about it, and they were from Portugal, and they were like, the way you were saying it first was right. For me, it's the melides top, and I will continue to call it the melides top, even though I still feel like it's not quite right. She said it was the closest. So anyways, melides top. I don't want to ramble too much, so let's just start talking about knitting. I'll ramble at the end, as usual. I have 3, oh my gosh, that's okay. 3 finished objects, the end of my summer knitting. You can see this is maybe a transitional video because I did just post my fall knitting plans, and at least here in Philly, the day it hit September, I was like chilly in the morning going outside. I'm ready for the pumpkin drinks. I have a pumpkin candle going. I bought a pack of pumpkin beers yesterday. I'm ready. I'm getting my pumpkin coffees. I'm making soup. It's fall. So this is the last bits in my whip. My melides top fell. This is the last bits of summer knitting, and then I have a little bit of summer knitting here, and then fall. It's time for fall. Are you ready? Let's go. Let's finish out summer strong. Okay. So I'll start off strong with my finished objects and tell you about the melides top. Gorgeous, gorgeous. I made a project vlog about this. So if you're interested at all in knowing a little bit more of the details of the melides top, definitely check out my project vlog. But this is a pattern by Inez Oliveira, also known as Vert Knit. I knit mine with Knitting for Olive Pure Silk and Hokkaido, which is lovely orange. I don't know if it'll look good. I'm looking in the mirror now. I feel like it'll look good with my new hair. It'll look good with my blonde hair. Anyways, I knit this on a 2.75 millimeter needle. I made the size 6. This top is obviously, it's reversible, so you have a square neck here, a V-neck here. It's a pretty customizable top, pretty much designed to fit you. The only modification I worked was raising the V-neck. So you can probably tell from here, I'll put up a picture of myself and then a picture of Inez wearing it. You can tell the V-neck is a little bit higher than in the model photos. She did basically said you could raise the V-neck by a certain number of stitches without having to modify the strap shaping. So that's what I did. I felt like it would just be a little bit more wearable for me every day. I didn't want a super deep V. I thought I would be a little higher, and I am so happy. So happy I did that. Sadly, I have not worn this since I finished it because I finished it, I haven't really had a chance to wear it, and now I fear it's getting a little too chilly to be able to wear this, which is very disappointing, very sad. I think I'll make it through though. I think I'll survive not being able to wear my finished object. But yeah, it's pretty sad that I haven't had a chance to wear it. My last podcast, I cast on at the bottom and restarted, and I'm glad I did because it's a little more cinched. The bottom's a little more cinched than what it was when I first cast on, so I'm glad. I really don't feel like I have too much to say about this pattern. I absolutely loved it. I am hoping to make another one. I bought yarn to make another one next summer. And yeah, I can't really speak to how it wears because I obviously haven't worn it. The straps, I heard from people, Ravelry, Instagram, like everywhere, that Knitting for Olive Pure Silk stretches quite a bit, especially lengthwise as you wear it. So the straps, the underarms pretty much hit like probably the highest point they can hit without becoming uncomfortable. Definitely they're like tucked up in there. My hopes when doing that, well, one, when I finished and I tried on, I was like, these are a little tight, and instead of redoing it, I was like, well, we'll see how they stretch, because they might stretch over time with wear. That is I don't want to say my hope, but that's kind of what I'm expecting to happen. So that's why I'm okay with the underarms being a little too tight and don't feel the need to fix them immediately. Plus they cover up my bra, which is nice. The bust darts, I feel like my bust darts, they don't pop out as much as I would like, and I feel like there's a change in the bust darts when I started increasing. I don't know if you guys can tell. I feel like they looked really nice before I made the increase, and then after the increase, they just blend in with the other stitches. They're pretty subtle, but they're there, and I love them. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the bust darts are just these stitches here that pop out a little bit more, basically giving it an appearance of like making it look kind of corseted, which is, in my opinion, one of the like big draws of this top. I feel like I really cranked it out. I feel like once I recast on the top, it took me maybe about 2 weeks to make, and I wasn't being monogamous with it, but I feel like 2 weeks for a fingering weight top is pretty nice. I do also, if you watched my fall knitting plans video, I do have plans to make the melides dress with also Knitting for Olive Pure Silk. This was pretty good. Like, I feel like a good way to dip my toes into the melides line. We'll see. Yeah, for whatever reason, this project was really daunting to me. This pattern, I started it last summer, and then I didn't finish it. I didn't like the yarn that I started it with, and it was just always really daunting to me. I don't know why, because the pattern's so long. It's like a 20-page pattern for a top. but I was just always really intimidated to make it. I don't know. And then I started making it, and it's simply just not that difficult. So I don't really know why I made such a fuss about it. I've definitely made more difficult projects. I really felt like it was a challenge and I tackled it, but it didn't even end up being that difficult of a top to make. But overall, I love the way it turned out. I love when I put it onto photograph it. I just haven't had a chance to wear it out and about. I don't know if it's going to be a little warmer at some point. Maybe on a really warm day, I'll be able to pop it on and wear it. But for now, it's just going to sit around until next summer, which is kind of sad. But otherwise, really happy with how it turned out. Would love to make another and plan on making the melides dress as well. Next. Okay. Oh my gosh. I didn't even cut off the ends of this. I did block it, but I didn't cut the ends off. This is my Edda Bag 2.0 by Suzanne Muller, also known as Paula Street. Let me show it to you. It's just a cute little market bag. I used Ani Blot. Oh, and there's a stitch marker still in there too. I used Ani Blot Ecos Ani. I don't know what color it is because I couldn't find it on the label. This was a yarn that was gifted to me by a family friend a while ago. I've had it sitting in my stash for a really long time, probably 2 or 3 years, and I haven't known what to do with it. And so finally I decided this was my summer to use it and get rid of it. So I made this bag. It's just a classic little market bag, 2 straps. The bottom is all mesh. I used about almost exactly 2 whole balls of this yarn. I used a US 7, which is a 4.5 millimeter needle for this, and I do feel like it is a bit small, right? Like if I put it on like this, it does fit around my arm, but it feels a bit snug here. You can kind of see it's pretty snug. It stretches a lot. If you watch my last podcast, I posed a question to everybody, and I didn't really get a good definitive answer, just people kind of speculating that it was like, your logic's sound. And I was like, okay. This pattern, the lace pattern, the open work lace, is in the pattern, it's simply yarn over, purl 2 together, yarn over, purl 2 together. I use combination style knitting, which is not quite continental, not quite English. Basically, my purls just always end up twisted the way I purl. They end up twisted, and it's on purpose. They're supposed to end up twisted. So when I'm working that twisted purl stitch the next time, I just work it through the back loop. It's how I knit. It's how I've knit for years. It's how many other people knit. However, it becomes an issue when you're purling something and then you need to either knit 2 together or purl 2 together, because you have to readjust the twisted purl stitch and then work it. It was such a hassle to go back and every single, like every other stitch, have to twist my stitches, rearrange them back on the needle. And I was like, this is going to take me forever and I'm not enjoying it. So I ended up doing the whole thing as yarn over knit 2 together. And I think it ended up looking pretty good. I think it looks pretty similar to the pattern. I feel like it's not exactly how the pattern was. And perhaps that's why it seems a little smaller than I feel like it should have been. However, it was a lot easier for me to knit and a lot more fun to knit. So I would do it again. It was definitely a lot easier, and I feel like the finished object looks nice, looks similar to the pictures, so wouldn't change that. The straps, I didn't realize until I started working these straps. There's an option to knit either, you can either knit rib stitch straps or garter stitch straps. And I started working the garter stitch straps and then realized you could do rib stitch straps. And I definitely like the way the rib stitch looks better. I think it's more of a, I'll put up a picture comparing them. I feel like it's a bit of a neater looking result. But I'd already started the garter stitch and I was really happy to finish this. And I didn't want to go back and redo my hard work. And it's still really cute. I knit this, as with all market bags, with the intention of it being like a little farmer's market bag. I have not used it since I finished it. But either way, I'm glad to have a stash project done. I need to trim the ends, but I did weave in the ends and I blocked it. And I need to take the stitch marker off. Otherwise, I'm pretty happy with the result. It was pretty easy to make. You basically just knit the whole mesh thing in like one big panel and then pick up all the stitches, the straps, and that was it. It was a pretty easy project. I do still have about 2 skeins of this yarn left over, so I'm thinking I might just make another bag with it since I don't really know what else to make with it. It's a 100% cotton. It's cabled. I think it's probably mercerized, and it's just not something I would want to wear as a garment. So that pretty much leaves bag as the only option. So probably we'll make another bag with this at some point, perhaps next summer. Maybe I'll make one for a friend or a family member or something because it is a nice, easy gift. It took me like 1 month exactly to make this, and I was using it as my sort of easy whip while I was making the melides top and working on other projects. So not too bad. I was really, really happy to finish this, and I'm also just so happy that I used this yarn from my stash because it's just taking up space. And now I have a little bag. This is my first finished bag, actually. This is the first bag that I've finished. I think that's right. That's incredibly exciting for me. My first bag, everyone. My little market bag. This is kind of when we're getting into the fails because I feel like this is a little smaller than what I wanted it to be. The straps are a little smaller. This is not something I will be fixing. I want to make that clear. I don't feel like it's as big of a deal, and if anything, it'll stretch. It certainly won't shrink. It certainly won't shrink. So, and I feel like it'll get the job done. It'll really expand, hold a lot of fruits and veggies at a farmer's market. So overall, very happy with this, except that I feel like the straps in just the bag itself are a bit too small. Moving on. The biggest fail of them all, the biggest finished object fail of them all. I finally finished it, but this is the lime skirt by La Pole. I finally finished it. I'm not going to beat around the bush at all. I hate this. I hate it so much. I don't know where I went wrong for me to hate this, but I know what I hate about it, if that makes sense. I knit this using Rowan cabled mercerized cotton, which was another yarn that had been sitting in my stash for quite some time. Earlier this summer, I knit the boat neck batwing top by James and Watts, which I modified to have sleeves, and I was making this lime skirt to be sort of like a beach cover-up set. That was my plan with these. I think I will insert video of myself wearing it, even though it's incredibly unflattering. I will insert video of myself wearing this so you guys can kind of know what I'm talking about. But you can see just by looking at it, the top, I don't know what I did with the elastic, but basically the biggest problem with this, it's too big in the waist and it's too small in the hips. So that makes for like an incredibly unflattering garment. Incredibly unflattering. In addition, I was running out of yarn. Silly me, this is all that I have left of this yarn. This yarn is discontinued. I was just gonna knit until I was done with it. I knit too many rows, and then when I cast off too tightly, and there is literally no stretch. So I cannot take a full step when wearing this. I can only take half steps, which is limiting, very limiting. It does end up going to about mid-calf length, which is pretty exciting that I got that much out of it. But I feel like the waistband, like I thought the elastic that I measured and before I knit it into the garment was like the perfect size, but I think the stitches are just maybe a bit too stretched out. Maybe I knit a size too small, but then if I knit a size too small, I would expect it to fit better on my waist. Do you know what I'm saying? Like if the fact that I knit a size too small was the case, I would expect it to fit very well on my waist. I do not think I will ever wear this, which is really sad because I spent a lot of time on it and I was really, really, really excited about it. I don't see myself ever wearing this. That being said, I don't know how I feel about frogging it and making it again, because since I don't know what went wrong with this, I don't know how I would fix it. The only thing I can think of is perhaps I would pay more attention to the waistband, spend more time, maybe calculate things out a bit, and then I would work, instead of just working the waistband and going straight into the fillet stitch, I think I might work some increases so that the waistband ends up being a lot tighter and that ends up fitting loosely, like more loose in my hips instead of like really tight on my hips. And then I also would just not bind off as tight on the bottom. That's a really easy thing. I think if everything else in the skirt was perfect and it was only the bottom that I didn't like, I think I would try to find a way to go back and redo this bind off, which I think it'd be difficult going through like the lace stitch and trying to like pick up stitches and like figure out where I went wrong. That seems like a headache that I would be willing to suffer through if the rest of this skirt was perfect. However, it's fixing the bottom. If I fixed the bottom, I still wouldn't wear it, so there's no point right now. I'm not going to do anything about this until next summer. It feels incredibly wasteful to have made this and to never wear it and to not do anything with the yarn. But I don't love this yarn. If I'm also being honest, I don't love it. It reminds me a lot of the Ecos Ani, like the mercerized, like not really great for a garment. My boat neck back wing, that's so hard for me every single time. My boat neck back wing it's really nice, it's really pretty, it's everything I wanted, but it just doesn't feel very comfortable on the skin either. But I can suffer through that because it's like so cute, and it's everything I wanted, so I will wear that. This also when I put it on, besides the fact that it just doesn't fit right, it doesn't feel good on my skin either. I don't know if it's because when it's like, when you like put on something that's like too tight and you just like don't like the way it looks and you're like, oh, I look ugly in this, and you're just like messing with it and you're like, get it off me. That could be it too. Perhaps next summer I'll give this another go and do what I said, pay attention to the waistband, work increases, and then start the rib stitch or the fillet stitch. Or maybe I'll frog it and make something else. Maybe I'll make a bag with this. I don't know, but overall, I'm very disappointed with how this turns out, which is so sad because it was a lot of work and I was so excited about it. Yeah, if you have any insight also into what went wrong or how I can fix it, I would love to know your opinions in case I do end up fixing this or making something similar. I don't know how I feel about knit skirts now that I've been burned with this. I just don't know. I don't know. With this, jury's still out on the knit skirts for me. So yeah, this is the biggest fail of them all so far. The last bit, this is my half finished object. This is not a fail. This is my camisole number 5 by My Favorite Things Knitwear, who I have one-sided beef with that I already talked about. I went in and I added, you can definitely see here, I added some elastic to the neck and to the armholes, which I love. Incredible. Really cinched up the armholes. You really can't see my bra at all when I'm wearing it, and the neck was kind of starting to stretch out, and now it's a very like tight cinched neck. I got some questions about how I added elastic in, so I thought I would go over it here. Pretty straightforward. I feel like whenever I add elastic on, because usually you're adding it on like rib or I-cord or something. Whenever I add it on rib, if it's a thicker collar that really needs to be like cinched in, when I made the Oslo sweater for my friend, I did 2 layers of elastic, but this, it was smaller. I only did 1. I pretty much just go in and every other knit stitch, I just slip my needle under it. And then before I tie it off, I usually just tie it off. I don't even weave it in. I just tie it off. I have this elastic cord that I use. I got it at Michael's. Literally put it on a sewing needle and slip under one knit stitch and then leave one out, and then slip under one, leave it out, slip under one, leave it out, and just kind of eyeball it and like, oh, that's good, tie it off, call it a day. For this one, this is what I do for if it's on a knit stitch or I-cord. Can't really see, but it's pretty much the same thing. Sort of the same technique when mattress stitching. I'll find the little bumps in between the V's. You can see there. And just like the same spot that you use for mattress stitching. And I'll just go under one, skip one, go under one, skip one, go under one, skip one. Same deal. And then kind of stretch it out at the end and tie it off. And I find this works really well for garments. I also just do like 1 layer here. And the thing about these is that they don't really need to be perfect because 1, no one's going to see them. And 2, if something happens and I don't like the way they look anymore, I can just like rip them out and redo it, and the top is going to look the exact same. It's not like having to redo part of the top. It's just like a little extra thing for reinforcement. I'm sure there's ways you can go through and you can knit with something in there, like kind of as you go. I'm sure there's ways to do that. I just never know if I'm going to want to add elastic or not. So I just hold off until the end. Oh my god, this is already starting to pill because I've worn it so much. I love this top. Anyway, so that's like my half finished object because I've already talked about everything to do with the fit and how much I love this top. But I just wanted to go over the elastic because I got some questions about that. Have a quick water break. You guys should have a water break too. Drink some water. All right, onto whips. I think I'll go from most summerish to most fall knits. All right. So if you remember from a while ago, earlier this summer, I made the, yarn almost fell. I made the twist loop top by Other Loops, and I absolutely loved it. It was gorgeous. It was a full size too big, which is on me. The top was supposed to have 0 centimeters of ease, and calculating my bust and what it should look like, I should have made a size medium, but I was like, I don't really want it to be tight, so I'll make a size large. And I made a size large, and it was too big and it didn't look good. So I am remaking it. This is how far I am. I'm also modifying it. Whew. I'm pretty far into it. This is Knitting for Olive Merino in the shade. This is Cloud. It's kind of, it's definitely like a warm white color, and it's pinkish in certain lights, which is really fun. Also, when I made the top and I tried it on, even though it was a size too big, it was like, I mean, from like here, it was just way too big at the underarms. It was too low. It was too wide. You could see from the front, just looking like this, you could see my bra on the sides. That's how big and gaping it was. And I was like, there's no way to fix this. I'm not gonna try to shrink it. I'm just gonna make it again. I also didn't like the way the straps looked. The straps were really small. It looked a little halterish on me. I didn't love it. It didn't seem incredibly bra friendly. Like I would have to kind of adjust the normal bra that I wear with my knits to make it work. And I was like, well, I have to redo it anyways. I'll make the straps thicker, which if you'll remember, I did on my camisole number 5. And these two guys have very similar structures. So I basically just did the exact same thing with this as I did on camisole number 5. I made the straps a bit wider, if you can see. Straps are pretty thick, so it's definitely going to be more, more tank toppy. It's definitely going to just be more drop shoulder looking. I didn't realize though, I cast this on. I went home last weekend to Alabama, where I'm from, where my mom still lives and my boyfriend is currently living. I got like a surprise 4-day weekend. So I went home and my boyfriend picked me up from the airport, and I surprised my mom, which was so fun. I booked my flight like the day before. Very spontaneous. I took this with me because I thought it would be a good travel project. Fingering weight tops are like the best. Just fingering weight anything is the best travel project. So I was doing like calculations in the airport, trying to figure out what to cast on, stitches and everything, and I was like boarding and casting on. All that to say, I was rushed when I was doing calculations. And what I did with the camisole number 5 was basically cast on extra stitches here, work the neck increases the exact same way in the pattern, and just delay working the armhole increases. You know, basically work less armhole increases and start working them later. I didn't realize when I got to the point that was like, okay, now you should start working the armhole increases. I place a marker and I'm like, okay, well, how many rows do I now need to knit straight before I start the armhole increases? And that's when I realized that I casted on the number of stitches for the strap that we're going to be finished. We're going to be there at the end of the armhole increases. So then I was like, oh, there's going to be absolutely no shaping in this. I was like, The difference between this camisole number 5, this you cast on stitches in the underarm, which makes it a bit more boxy looking. Go like this, and then you have stitches cast on. Makes the arm, like the underarm portion, a little wider. The camisole number 5, you cast on. In my size, I didn't cast on any stitches in the underarm. In other sizes, you cast on a small number of stitches for the underarm. So I was like, well, what if I just combine the shapings and then I just worked the underarm stitches that were going to be cast on. I just worked them as increases. So I get a little bit of shaping, and then I did not cast on any stitches for the underarm. I'm really going crazy with the mods this year. Like it's actually insane, and it seems like they're all working out. So that all went perfectly fine, and now I'm just working the body. I just started last night. I started the last of the cable repeats. There's only like 3 repeats of this cable pattern, so I started the last one last night. I think I'll be able to finish this before fall really takes a hold of me. I felt like this really big spark of motivation to make this top and start it. I was gonna just put it off until next summer and start it next summer, but I felt like this strong surge of like motivation to work on it and get it done before I get really into fall. I see myself wearing this under like cardigans, v-necks, things like that, other sweaters in the fall, winter, spring, which is why I have the motivation to work on it now. And I think I'll be able to finish it out before it gets too crazy into fall. I really just have the rest of the body and then the finishing, the neck and the armholes. This neck is just like a folded 1x1 rib collar. I think I might work it the same way as I did the camisole number 5, which is the my favorite things way of knitting a neck. I don't really want to give things away. Even though we have beef, I'm still going to respect her ideas because I love the way that neck looks, and I really, really loved knitting it. I thought it was a lot more enjoyable than knitting a 1x1 rib and then folding it over and seaming it. So I think I might work it the same way as that one. So I feel like I'm really just taking these 2 tops and combining them to make my perfect little summer top. I unraveled my failed twist loop top, and I made and posted a reel about it because, and I did the same thing with my next whip, which I'll talk about in a second. Usually when I unravel finished object and reuse the yarn, I don't even know what the term is, but I usually don't like unblock it, if that makes sense. I have not done that before, and I did that. It took quite some time. It took like a whole day to unravel it, wind it, soak it, and then dry it. And then it took the entire Love is Blind UK reunion to wind it, use the Swift to wind it. So it took like a really long time. I definitely feel like it's a neater look than if I had just used the noodly looking yarn without reblocking it. But it definitely was a lot of work. So depending on the top and what it looks like or the garment, I could see myself doing that again. I mean, it was pretty fun to do. I felt like a yarn dyer a little bit. I think that's pretty much all I have to say about my twist loop top, my summer top. I talked about my Matter Root bag, my Matter Root project bag in my last video. I took it on the plane with me, which is the reason that I bought this for plane knitting. It was absolutely incredible. I like looped it to the back of the tray table, like the side of the tray table, and just let it sit there. And I had like my yarn there the whole time. It was so nice. It affirmed all of the money that I spent on it. It made me so happy to have it. I'm so glad. I'm so glad I bought it. My last whip, you can see this really is just the podcast of failed finished objects. This is an Oslo hat. Can you see the vision yet? It's okay. It's okay if you can't. I'm knitting this using 2 strands of Filcolana Arwetta in the color Nougat. This lovely like grayish brown. I don't know if you can see. This is for my boyfriend. I think I talked about this in my very first podcast. Maybe I didn't. I love Oslo hats, obviously. I crank them out. This is, I think, my 10th Oslo hat. My boyfriend also loves them. Big beanie guy. And I've made him, this is now his 3rd Oslo hat that I'm making him. Last winter, I was ordering yarn from Galt House of Yarn, which is where I get a lot of my Filcolana yarns. And I was like, oh, do you want some Oslo hats? Pick out some colors. And he picked out just solid black, and he picked out this lovely color. I made him the black one. And I think this was my first time using Filcolana Arwetta for an Oslo hat because I was cheap before and I previously used Knit Picks Stroll held double. Basically, I knew his size for the Knit Picks Stroll, but I used the same sizing for the Filcolana Arwetta, and his black hat ended up being really tight. He said he didn't want me to remake it because it was snug, but it was fine, and if anything, it'll stretch. So when I made him this one, this nougat one, which I cast on second, I was like, well, I made him a medium in the black one. I was like, let me make him a large in this one. I think that'll fit a little bit more comfortably. And I was casting this on during the Super Bowl, during like the last quarter, which was like very stressful. And I accidentally cast on 10 additional stitches. So I made like an extra large hat for him. And it was way too big. There was no going around it. I had him try it on maybe in like May, I want to say, and it was too big, and I was like, all right, I'll remake it, but just give me a minute because I need to recover from this hit to my ego. So the time to remake it is now. I'm obviously starting it. I think I'm about to fold for the brim. So I reblocked this yarn and then have been making it. I did go see Les Mis earlier or last week with one of my friends in Philly, and I took this with me and I knit on it during it. I knit like I started. I was like down here, so I did knit like all of this while I was in there, which is pretty nice. But it definitely does look rough. It's not as like show or movie knitting friendly as I thought it would be, probably because the yarns are held double. So you can definitely see there's some things that I think I'm going to go back and fix some holes. There are some holes in here. But other than that, I feel like for the most part, it definitely looks uneven, probably because of all the holes. But, you know, I didn't, as far as I can tell, I didn't lose any stitches. I didn't gain any stitches. I lied. I lost a stitch. I just found one. I was on my high horse, and someone just, that one knit two together just knocked me off. Either way, I'm going to go back and fix the holes for this. Because the medium was too small for him, not too small, it was really snug. I asked him, I was like, do you want the medium, or do you want me to go up a size? And he was like, the medium is just a little too tight, but I don't feel like I need to go up a full size. So basically what I did, again, I'm off-roading, I'm modifying. I cast on the number of stitches in between a medium and a large. And I will just figure the math out when I get to having to decrease for the brim of the hat. And we'll call it a day in that. So he's getting like a medium and a half, which I think will suit him a lot better than the absolutely massive one that I made and the absolutely tiny one that I made. This is the first little bit of fall knitting, the first little sneak peek of fall knitting. And I'm so happy that fall knitting is here. You guys don't even know. You guys probably do know. You guys probably feel the exact same way. Fall's here. I love fall. Fall is my favorite season. And I'm so happy that it's fall. Okay, that's it for my whips. I do have some slow burning whips, which I guess that leads into future plans, because the first things that I'm tackling in fall knitting are my like lingering whips. Last winter, I have a Berlin scarf that I need to finish for my boyfriend's sister for Christmas. I think I have maybe like 2 skeins left to knit up in the body and then do the fringes. The body of the scarf, and then I need to do the fringes. So I think that'll be like maybe a day or 2 long project. And then I have a sweater for my boyfriend that I put aside because it was frustrating me. And that's the Ripped Sweater by Jared Flood from Brooklyn Tweed that I will pick up and hopefully finish. I believe I have the back panel and then both arms to finish. I think I talked about that one in my first podcast. It's a very sad story. Don't worry though, I'll revisit it when I start working on it again. So those are my next plans, to just finish these whips, finish the scarf and the sweater before casting on anything brand new. I have one acquisition with me presently. It's not yarn, but this is the Lumos knitting light. You like turn them on, Did it work? Oh, it worked. And this one goes to, I was staying with my friend in upstate New York, and she's a big reader. And we were sitting outside on her porch, and it was dark, and I was using my phone flashlight to knit, and I was like, oh, there's this like knitting light that goes around your neck that I've always wanted to buy. I was like, but it's expensive and I haven't bought it. I don't know why I'm holding out. And she was like, could it work as a reading light? I was like, interesting. I don't see why not. She was like, I hate those like book clips, like the book lights that you like clip on the book. She was like, I hate those. So I go online and to the Lumos website, and they have like, if you buy two, you get them at like a discount. And then I found somebody's code on Instagram. I think I paid $60 for two of them, and one of them by themselves is like $50. I bought the Lumos light, a bit of an impulse, and I love it. I don't know how I lived without it. It is incredible. It bends, it's bendy. This is not sponsored, by the way. I know a lot of people get sponsored by Lumos. I'm not lucky enough to be one of them. Lumos, hit me up. Hit me up if you want me to sponsor you, because I love this little light so much. There's like the different colors. It has like warm tone light, neutral, and like cool tone, and it's very bendy. It also does not hurt my neck at all. There's like no neck irritation. It doesn't feel heavy on my neck at all. The battery lasts forever. It's incredible. And my friend loves it for reading. Yeah, great for knitting, great for reading. 10 out of 10 recommend. I did also pseudo acquisitions. I, as you know, big fan of yarn, big fan of Taylor Swift. You know where this is going. Big fan of Sorella yarn. I purchased yarn from the Eras collection part 2. I had to. I simply had to. I couldn't not. I was a little bit disappointed with the colors, I'm not gonna lie, because I love so many of the colors from the first collection, but I didn't know that it was going on when it was going on. So I didn't buy anything from the first collection. So I think there were just so many colors from the first collection that I loved and would have loved to own and make something with. And I didn't feel the same way about this collection. I did, however, buy some skeins. I bought some Cruel Summer, Champagne Problems, and Willow, which I'm really excited about. I will go into my like plans for the projects with them when I actually have them in my possession. So I'll save that for later, but I had to touch on that. That's pretty much it for all of the knitting stuff. I do usually end up talking about various other things, my various other interests for the next little bit. But if you were only around for the knitting and you want to leave now, I won't be offended. Thank you for, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to me talk about knitting. And I will carry on with other non-knitting things. As always, we'll go most sophisticated to least sophisticated. I am in a book club with my college friends, and I finished Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. Wonderful, wonderful book. I really, really enjoyed it. Wonderful ending, wonderful character development, writing, funny but serious and sciencey. This is the same guy who wrote The Martian, if you don't know, and if you like The Martian, I feel like you would definitely like this. They are making a movie out of it with Ryan Gosling in it. I don't know when it's coming out though, but incredible book. I really, really liked it. And we are now reading Outlaw by Anna North, I want to say. I'm listening to the audiobook as I do. I'm about an hour into it, and it's pretty interesting. I'm not going to say anything else about it because I'm holding back judgment until I get at least halfway through, because I don't really know where it's going. I have no idea where it's going. So, but it's interesting so far. Interesting concept. I'm enjoying it so far. Okay, as you know, it's fall. I love fall. It's chilly here. It's chilly here. It's like 60s most of the time now instead of like 70s, 80s, which I love. Can't get enough of it. And I also love Halloween. Halloween is my favorite holiday. I love all of September and October, like my favorite months of the whole year. So I'm thriving right now. I love Halloween movies. I have like my list that I run through every year. Maybe you know where this is going. I saw Beetlejuice. I thought it was so cute. It was so good. I love how they made the plot a little modern-ish. Like there was a lot more stuff going on, but they still kept the same like humor, the same filming as the original the same like touches as the original. I loved it. It's getting added to my rotation of Halloween movies to watch every year, so if you're considering going to see it in the theaters, I would say do it because it was incredible. Loved it. Formula One. It's an off weekend this weekend. Next weekend, I think, is Singapore. Or probably when this is released, it'll be Singapore going on. McLaren. We need to have a talk. McLaren. They're really, I don't know how to say this without swearing. They're fumbling it. They are fumbling it big time. I just feel like we all have the same thoughts. I feel like Will Buxton said it pretty well. They're gonna throw away the championship if they keep acting like that. Seems like we're maybe witnessing the downfall of Lando Norris / his villain arc. I don't know how people feel about Lando Norris. I don't want to upset too many people. But there's always been something a little bit off about him. He's never been like my favorite. I just think he's a little bratty. That's it. I just think he's a little bratty. And this season's also really showing it that he's pretty bratty. Big Ferrari fan, was so happy to see Charles Leclerc win in Monza. That was a really great race to watch. It was really, really interesting. I love how the races this season, even when there's no like safety cars, there's no like massive penalties, there's no incidents, there's no like crashes, even without all of that, the races are still so interesting. I feel like that's all I have to say on it right now. Oh, I already touched on it. I watched Love is Blind UK. I really enjoyed it. I watched it with my friend in upstate New York. We all watched it together, and I thought it was really great. I thought it was pretty wholesome, pretty surprising. The reunion, pretty surprising. I won't say anything in case you haven't seen it. It was similar to the first season of the Love is Blind US, where it was like a lot of really normal people, a lot of really emotionally mature people, which is why the reunion maybe wasn't that dramatic. Which is like sometimes nice to see, but then sometimes I want to see chaos on TV. If I'm going to watch TV, I want it to be chaotic. I also watched Owning Manhattan, like the New York version of Selling Sunset, and I loved it. I thought that Ryan Serhant was like a very relatable boss in the sense that he wasn't like too cool for school. He wasn't trying to be super cool. He was just trying to be him. And I love that. He seems normal, seems reasonable. I enjoyed the fashion, and I also liked it more than Selling Sunset because I just like the New York architecture and the New York houses and style so much better. So in Selling Sunset, I was just looking at all the houses, and I was like, nah, nah. And in New York, I was like, oh, let me live there. I would live there. Like, they were just all so beautiful. So in that sense, I enjoyed it a lot. And then ending on the lowest note possible, I started The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. It's on Hulu. I thought it was going to be more of a documentary. No. I thought it was just going to be a documentary about, if you don't know what I'm talking about, there's this group of like Mormon moms in Utah, and they got really big on TikTok maybe a year or two ago. I have no idea. Basically, they were doing all these dancing videos, these mom videos together. And then one of them came out and was basically like, I'm getting divorced, and also we all swing with each other. And so there was this whole thing. I remember like watching it unfold, and I was like, yo, this is crazy. So I thought they made a documentary about it. It is not a documentary. It is simply like discount Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. That being said, I will continue watching it. I only watched the first episode. I want to say there's 10 episodes on Hulu. Not sure how many. So far, it seems interesting. Jury's still out. Will withhold judgment. Anyway, so if you made it all the way to the end, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. I wish you a very, very happy start of fall. All the pumpkin flavored things that your heart desires, all the spooky movies, all the ghosts and zombies that you could ever want. And I will see you guys next time. So thanks for watching. Bye.